Alright, so we're punching through all these cards pretty quickly now. Put the RAM back in this one now. Some people may ask, why would you want a fast 2D card in Windows 98 anyway? Or know what's a fast 2D card in Windows 98? Like, wouldn't you just put a 3D accelerator in and be done with it? Well, you could, but you might want to use something like this. A pair of Voodoo 2s in SLI. Yes, you could pair those with an NVIDIA graphics card quite easily, and be done with it. You know, pair it with like an MX440, or hell, you could pair it with one of this lot down here. Any of these AGP 3D accelerators would be perfectly fine. But you may just want 2D and have all your 3D being done by this, and not have to worry about trying to set up in applications, you know, which card that you're going to use for direct 3D. You might just want to run everything through your Voodoos. That's what I do. So yeah, so that answers the question as to why you'd want to put a reasonably fast 2D card in. But let's wait till we get to the results at the end, and we'll see what is the fastest of these 2D cards against this 3D card, of course. Alright, so we've got our SIS card in our test system. Same test system we used for our DOS test benchmarking. We have our P5PE-VM with our Core 2 Duo, our 512 megabytes of RAM running in dual channel, so we're really giving these things the best chance possible of not hitting a CPU bottleneck. Yeah, TPG case, geez, I need to clean that. But anyway, let's see what happens here. Have we got a good seat on the card or not? Guessing not, for the fact that we have no monitor. Just give me a second. Joys of old cards. Let's try that again. Come on. There we go. So this is our SIS 6326. Let's get our super bright mode enabled on this monitor, just so that we got some slightly better resolution. Let's see how we go with Windows having a driver for this. I don't know whether it's going to. This is a fairly late chip. It's manufactured in 1998, so I'm not quite sure whether or not we're going to get a driver for this. Just give me a couple of seconds, guys. Let me see if I can fix this rolling of the image. Yeah, unfortunately, that's about as good as it's going to get now. It doesn't look like we have a standard driver for this, so I'll only be able to go with the driver. Wow, that screen roll's bad, isn't it? That's pretty cool, isn't it? Let's have a look. Let's see where our drivers are at. Video cards. Where's our SIS driver? I'm guessing it's an executable. I'm guessing I haven't unpacked the driver for the SIS yet. Let's just wow, that screen roll's bad. I have this problem at night. When we're doing this at night, we don't get this problem. Let's have a look. Video cards, drivers, video cards. This is an executable. Well, they've expanded that into the folder, so that's a bit of a pain. cancel that out. We'll have to reboot. Right, hopefully that's a little bit better now. Now we've got our, it's still not perfect, but I suppose it's a bit better. Still rolling. The drivers, now the disc. Okay. SIS-6326. Yes, let's restart. All right, we'll give this a restart, and then we'll come back and we'll see how this looks. The joys of Windows 98, we're off to a good start. I have a funny feeling this driver don't work, so I might need to go looking for another one. But we'll wait and see if it throws the same error again. And there we go, through the same error again. All right, let me get rid of this driver and see if we can find another one. Right, well, we got the SIS card working at long last. We finally found a driver. Not that I know whether it was too worth getting working or not. I mean, it was, we got 13.94. In our test there. All right, let's do our video playback test now. Let's see if we can just get that. There we go. Try and just get rid of some of that scrolling a little bit. Okay, so we need that one. Play up. There. Do our 24-bit colour first. Statistics window. Not that I think this should have any trouble playing back video. Just the play button, there we go, 0 dropped frames. Yeah, I don't think we're going to have any problems here. No problems with frame drop there at all. I think we can call that a resounding 0 frames dropped to 24-bit. Which means I'm going to be pretty certain that in 16-bit, unless of course we get a palette error in the overlay, which can happen. No palette overlay error. Oh, this is a card that actually works properly. I must admit the video is a little it's quite grainy looking, really. Fortunately, actually it looks quite grainy. The picture's really bad scaling on that. But I mean, look, the no frame drops, so I suppose that's a good thing. All right. Well, let's get the next card in and do a little bit more. All right, guys. So we're back with our testing. Get rid of that. There we go. We're now back with our testing. This is the Cirrus Logic the 5430 1 meg card. And as you can see, it looks perfectly fine in 24-bit colour. But if we change our driver, if we change our video mode to 16-bit colour, these are some of the little oddity problems we've had with, with drivers. I mean, all those colours are a little wrong, so it's yeah, a few interesting problems along the way, but we can still test the performance of the card regardless of whether the colours are on or not. Gives us an idea of the speed, but yeah, I'll get all these numbers plugged in for this card, and we'll move on to the next test. Right, now for our D3D Software Render test. As you can see, the palette is completely mucked up on this one, but well, we'll see how it goes test wise. I mean, look, it'll still test even though the colours are all out of whack. Now it's a 5430. I mean, what do you expect? It's an old card. It's really probably designed for 256 colours. Like, I mean, they did do true colour and high colour, but I mean, you know, really, yeah, it's an old card. It's from the early 90s. Can't expect too much out of it. All right, we're down to our final card, the ET600. All right, and you guys are going to get to come along for the ride on this one, because the card's out of the 486 now, which is where I've got my spreadsheet running, and well, we'll need to do everything here so that I can then go through this video and then plug all the numbers in. So let's come along for the ride. So let's do our direct draw test, 16-bit, 24-bit, 800 by 600 and 640 by 480. Let's go. Well, that seems to be nice and quick so far. Let's see how this goes. Running nice and smooth, but that's pretty much what I'd expect. ET600, quite a nice card for if you're Windows 98 build, and yeah, we'll just have to wait and see what it's like. What it's like when we get in the 24-bit mode. Still reasonably quick, 60 million pixels. Oh, scaling's a bit scaling's a little bit slow. Wonder if when we load the actual Seng Labs driver for Windows 9X, whether that'll improve that 24-bit scaling. That was a little slow. Scrolling seems to be all right though. 800 by 600. That's a little chuggy, isn't it? Just a little chunky. Yes, will be interesting to see what it's like when we get into a Seng Labs driver. But, you know, as it's scrolling and everything, it's still pretty good. All right. So let's have a look at our results here so that I can get a look at those. That should be enough for me to be able to pause that now and plug those into the spreadsheet. All right, let's do our next test. This is our software render Direct3D test. We need to do our 16-bit color first. Tests. Ooh. Well, that's about the fastest I've seen that run all day. Pretty much what I'd expect though. That's a little bit slower there. But yeah, nice and quick. It'll be interesting to see how well, it will be interesting to see how Quake not Quake, how Unreal Tournament runs software rendered through this card. Could you actually play software rendered Unreal Tournament in this machine? I'm almost betting you could at 640 by 480. Bring that up so it's a bit easier to read. Yeah, that looks nice and quick, doesn't it? Let's do our 24-bit colour now. 24-bit colour. All tests. Yeah, a bit slower now. Really makes a difference. The changing between 16-bit and 24-bit really makes a difference. As I said, I'm really actually looking forward to seeing what this is like when we get the proper Sing Labs driver installed rather than the Windows built-in driver, just to see if that actually does make a difference, or whether the card is just slow in 24-bit. I do believe that these have some sort of strange architecture that does mean that their 24-bit performance isn't as good. But yeah, we'll just see how it pans out. See if I can. Those lines a little bit less noticeable. Really. So there we go. That was a little bit slower. I'll just get that back up on the screen again so that I can read it. Alright, what have we got next? Time for Unreal Tournament test. So back to 16-bit. Let's go Unreal Tournament. Safe mode. And we'll be selecting D3D Software Render. Preferences 640 by 480, yes. 32-bit, yes. Alright. Position our window so that we get it the same every time. Look at that. Demo 1. Demo UT. No space. Oh yeah. Already well over 60 FPS. Nice. 70, 71 average. Yes, do believe you could play at 640 by 480 software rendered. At 16-bit color, of course. Interesting to see what it's like when we get into the 24-bit color. I reckon that'll be a fair bit slower, I think. $70.5. Nice. Alright, let's go back. Now we've got to do with the internal renderer. So, safe mode again. Video device. Software rendered either game. Without a full screen. References 640 by 480, yes. 32-bit, yes. Position our window. That's that. Right. similar, I'd say. Still in the 70s. Yeah, I think we're going to get about the same. 70.48. That's pretty close to the same, I think. Alright. Time to do the 24-bit colour. Let's get on with our 24-bit testing now that I've had some dinner. Geez, that's still pretty good. That's still 60 FPS. 63, 62, geez, I didn't think it'd be this good. Maybe you could play Unreal Tournament software rendered on this machine with this video card. Really need a stand to hold my phone. You know, that was pretty good. What was that? 57.88. Not bad at all. That was definitely in 24-bit, wasn't it? Yeah. Certainly was. Alright, let's try it with the internal software renderer. That's not what I wanted to do. Oh, I've been doing this too long today, I think. Brain's gone to sleep. There we go. Internal software render. Sure. Straight back in again at 60 FPS. Nice. I'll before we exit, I might throw it in full screen and just see what we get running just full screen just for a giggle. Might even try 800 by 600 just for a giggle as well, eh? See whether it's even playable. Alright, what did we get there? 58.36, yeah, so that's the same. Well, it's full screen now. Oh, hang on, we'll have to change our resolution here to 800 by 600. 800 by 600. Flicker for you guys. That's about as good as it's going to get, like. What are we getting there? That's not bad. 40, 45, 46 FPS at 800 by 600. Average of 45. I'd say that is probably almost a playable frame rate. Hey, what? Not bad. See what it's like in the actual benchmark. A bit more action happening. Yeah, 40, 43. Yeah, you know, look, that'd be all right for me, I reckon. I reckon I could play Unreal Tournament 43 FPS if I had to. Right. Alright, now let's do our... I don't think there's going to be any issue doing our video playback test, but hell, let's just do it anyway, just to audiences are being complete. Yeah, I'm not even dropping any frames, moving that into place, so yeah, no, I'd say that is perfectly fine. And yeah, no problems. No problems at all with that playback, is there? Alright, time to run all the tests now with the other driver. Let's find our ET6 driver. Is that the only one with video cards? Maybe, did I know? Must be that one. No, that one there won't work. That's the Hercules driver. Must be another one around here somewhere. I know I've got another one. Give me a couple of seconds, guys. Let me work out whereabouts this other driver is, and I'll be back. All right, so we've got our Sing Labs installed driver now. So let's have a look here. There we go. Top view twisted. Driver, provider, Sing Labs. Yep, 32-bit Sing Labs driver. So let's now have a see what this made any difference. Let's go. Floor standard test run. I don't know whether it's actually any faster. Still about 86. I think it was about the same. 16-bit we know was fine on the standard driver. I've got a couple of others to try, so we might see if there's a slightly better driver. But for the time being, performance is about the same, really. Still fine with 16, isn't it? It's possible that the Windows 98 driver was based on the last of the ET600 drivers, the genuine ones. 60, yeah. She's still You're still a bit slow on BLT stretch. Well, I reckon that there might be a little bit quicker actually. I'll have to have a look at the results when they're done. Yeah, no, that still looks like it's chugging along like a slideshow, doesn't it? Zip, 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 zip. I'll have a look at the numbers quickly before we move on to the next test. See if it is any better. Have a look. Look at all the stuff in the middle there. 86, 60, 48.5.6, 100, 41, 26. They are pretty much identical. So I have a funny feeling that this driver is basically the same as the original driver. So I don't think we have gained anything from this driver here from 1997. So, well, we'll run a few more tests just to be sure. But I reckon we're going to get exactly the same results as before. Yeah, that looks pretty much like the same numbers, I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure it hasn't changed. 24-bit. So you guys can appreciate now how long it takes to go through and test all these cards. I've had to do this with every single one of these video cards. It's taken me a good couple of days to get through the testing, because I mean you're seeing it on like one of the fastest cards. I suppose talking to the cards, why that's running, I was going to include this GeForce 2 MX400. It had faulty video memory, if you remember from the DOS benchmarks we did, and it was working fine in DOS, but as soon as you load a driver, I've tried a few different Forceware downloads, and they all come up with the same problem. The machine just hangs on boot, so I'm guessing that faulty video memory is causing a problem. So yeah, we couldn't test that. There we go, our numbers there. Exit. Safe mode. Support. So yeah, so I couldn't include that card, but we will have a whole heap of 3D accelerators coming up. We're doing a whole video on 3D accelerators in Windows 98. Some all AGP cards, which should be interesting. Should be an interesting look. We've got some NVIDIAs and some ATIs, so it should be good. Keep your eyes out for that. Maybe subscribe, then you'll be notified when it comes up. Yeah, I reckon all these numbers are going to be about the same, so I won't make you sit through all this. I'll just run them all and we'll just get a little shot of the screen at the end of each test. Here's our average for our software rendered D3D, 70.41. I think that was about the same as the other driver. And there we go at the end of our 16-bit internal software render, 70.24. So yeah, I think this driver is pretty much the same, but let me do the 24-bit color. And yeah, no surprises, 24-bit D3D software, 58.4 FPS, so that's pretty much the same. I don't think that we've got much of a difference here in our driver. I'm pretty sure that this driver is pretty much the same as the one that ships with Windows 98. 640, 480, yes, 32-bit. Bench, and off it goes again. Yeah, 60, 62, 58. Yeah, pretty sure this is going to be about the same, but we'll see at the end. Actually, this won't take long. Might as well just let you guys enjoy it. Don't think we're going to have any troubles. .33. So it was all good. Look, video playback I don't think is going to be an issue. No, even moving it around, I'd say video playback's going to be fine. Zero dropped frames. Moving the mouse over it, even moving this window around's not killing it, so I'd say she'll be more than fine. Alright, get this plugged back in to get my card back in my 486 now, and get all the numbers punched into the spreadsheet and see where it all lands. Alright guys, it is chart time. And this one here is way bigger than what I can fit on the screen because the Direct 3D test has so many little columns that it took a while to make it all, so we could sort of get it to a point where we could see it and read it. Alright, so our Trident, yeah, performance wise, it's a little bit quicker than the GD5430 in either 1 meg or 2 meg. Now the GD5430, it made no difference. 1 meg or 2 meg, it doesn't appear to do any RAM banking. So it doesn't seem to split the RAM and then bank it and do, split access between the two banks or interleaving or anything like that. It just runs the memory flat, because there's no performance difference between 1 meg and 2 meg. So the Trident, a little bit quicker in most things. As we come over, we can see that the 5446 does take advantages of having the extra 2 megabytes of memory in there, because we can see in some of our tests we've shot way up here for speed. So, and you know, a lot of the things are similar. This one here, blue and green, they've gone up a fair bit. So yeah, so that does make a difference. ET600, clearly the winner here. It's considerably higher in some of the tests there, but I mean these are just throughput numbers, millions of pixels. Like, you know, doesn't really tell us much, does it? So let's get over to some more tests here. This here is our D3D software test. So we can see our Trident 9440. Yeah, it didn't do too bad here. The Cirrus Logic 1 meg and 2 meg. Now it does make a difference in this test on the GD5430. So you can see this here is a little bit quicker than this here. 2 meg's actually slower, and that makes no sense to me. I'm guessing it's got something to do with the way DirectX handles the video memory changes, but it's the same on the 5446. It is faster in these tests, and I reran this one here a couple of times just to make sure, because it's 11.6 versus 70.68 for the fill rate, and 15.1 and 16 versus 4 and 2.2. I reran this 3 times to make sure that it was correct, and I got the same results every time. So it is clearly an oddity in the way the driver works. I said there was going to be some interesting things come out of this, because I mean the fill rate on that 1 meg is even quicker than the Sing Labs ET600, which only scored 29.5, and even the intersect throughput was higher on the 1 meg Cirrus Logic. 24-bit fill rate. The ET is a bit quicker at 24-bit fill rate. What have we got there? Intersect throughput 24-bit. Yeah, almost the same. So yeah, so some interesting things with 1 meg, 2 meg. How does that translate into the real world? Okay, well here's our, this is our Unreal Tournament. So Trident 9440, 16-bit software, 16 FPS, 16.5 when you use Direct3D or the internal. 24-bit 7.7, 8.6 with the internal. 5440, sorry, the 5430, 12 FPS, so a little bit slower than the Trident. 13 on the internal, you know, that's marginal error stuff. 5.9 in 24-bit. There were also no difference really between the 1 meg and the 2 meg. Our SIS, that doesn't, we don't have a Windows driver for that. That requires another driver. You will see that in the test later on. There's no built-in driver for that card, so it doesn't get a Windows driver test here. The 5446, again 1 meg or 2 meg, it really made no difference. We're talking 32 FPS software rendered 16-bit and about 13 FPS in actually the 2 meg version is a little bit quicker, 33, 34, and we got 16, nearly 17 FPS on the 2 meg version, so it did improve a little bit, about an extra 3 FPS, so 3 to 4 FPS, not bad. ET600, 70 FPS software rendered 16-bit and 57, 58, you know, for 24-bit. We go down a little bit further, we're going to see that now we've now loaded some drivers. So with the Trident, we've used the linear accelerator 1.0A driver, and that has, you know, it's still pretty good. This is our direct 3D throughputs. The Cirrus Logic's still absolutely rubbish. We could probably lower that scale a little bit more, take some of those other ones that are completely off the top. Let's bring that scale down to about 60. There we go. So there's our Trident, fill rate of 35. Now, what I will say though is that it had some problems with the 16-bit color palette. It was all out of whack. Like, it was greens and pinks and everything like that. So it may have been fast, but it was completely useless in 16-bit. 24-bit it was okay, but the 16-bit color palette was broken. Same with the 5430. In 16-bit the color palette was broken, and in 24-bit the test wouldn't even run with the version 1.01C driver. Our SIS card makes an appearance, not that it's much to write home about. It's not very quick in this test. 5446, again, 1 meg configuration faster than 2 meg configuration. And the ET600, we're using driver version 4.10 from Seng Labs, and that appears to be functionally the same as the one that ships with Windows 98 SE. So now we come down to our Unreal Tournament data. So this is with our driver. So Direct 3D, again 16-bit color palettes were broken, so even though the score looks reasonable, the 24-bit was the only one that was visually lookable, and it's only 8 frames a second, 5.6. It really didn't help loading drivers for them. Interestingly, the SIS wouldn't run the Direct 3D software test at 24-bit. I had to use the internal renderer only, and it got 13.9 FPS, 30 FPS and 28 FPS in 16-bit. So it's still actually slower than the GD5446 in 2 meg, a little bit quicker, 16 FPS. And there's our ET600. So now if we go down, we can see we've put all the cards with the internal driver and the with the Windows 98 drivers up to here, and this here's with our other drivers loaded. It really doesn't make that much of a difference. Like, you know, that there is 16.8, 16.97. I mean, it's margin of error. It's 13.8, 13.74. There really isn't much difference. I mean, you could hunt around, go through all the different drivers, you might get a little bit, but by the time all these 2D cards came out, Windows 98 basically had the best driver that was available at the time. So so there we go. ET600, expensive card, but very good card. I do believe there are some compatibility issues with some DOS games. I have had someone reach out and say that they've got an ET600. There's a couple of older DOS titles that won't run. They are visually corrupted on an ET600. I'm going to have a bit of a play around, see if I can find some that are the same, and it may just be an ET600 thing. But for those who are looking for a card to throw in your Windows 98 machine for 2D, because you want to put your Voodoo 2s in there, or a Voodoo 1 or something like that, and you don't need another 3D accelerator, I'd look at things like the Cirrus Logic GD5446. I mean, look, either in 1 meg or 2 meg. If you don't need high resolution desktop, just a 1 meg version of that, it's going to be fine. I mean, look, worst case, if you don't want to game, the 5430 can't really say that there's going to be a good option. If you want to play, you're going to play a video back, it's going to be hopeless. It frame drops like crazy. We did some tests here, and the Trident in 24-bit was frame dropping, playing an X-bit video. It's on a 640x480 screen. 16-bit it had palette corruption. The same with the 5430, with the driver, like the specific driver loaded. With the Windows driver, I don't think we had. Yeah, we still had palette corruption on the 5430, but if you had a Trident 9440 with the built-in Windows driver, you would get away with playing video in 16-bit color at 640x480. But yeah, with the Cirrus Logic, you're not going to get away with it. So look, my recommendation would be, if you don't want to spend a ton of money, probably a Trident 9440 is probably going to get you by. Cirrus Logic 5446, definitely worth looking at if you don't want to spend a lot of money. If you want like the ultimate in 2D PCI cards, probably look at the ET600, but they're not cheap at the moment. Last time I looked, you know, people were asking, you know, 200, 250 Australian dollars for them on eBay, so, you know, not a cheap card. Whereas the Cirrus Logics can still be picked up for, you know, 40, 50 dollars most of the time, Australian. So, you know, keep an eye out for a good Cirrus Logic 5446, 5430, not really. There are some other ones that fall in between those. So any of the newer ones, like the ones that come just before the 5446, so that'll be like the 54. Just trying to think what the other models are. Off the top of my head, I think it's like a 5438. That sort of stuff probably not going to be too bad either. But yeah, some of the later Tridents, 96s, they should be fairly good as well. But yeah, hopefully this gives you an idea of the performance differences of these cards now in Windows 98. And yeah, hopefully you found some of the information useful. I know I've rabbited on for a while about it. So yeah, we'll catch you on the next one when we are doing the 3D accelerators. And those we have are, if we spin around here, we've got a few to go through for our 3D accelerators thing. We've got a TI 4600. We've got a ton of ATI cards. I've got to put a heatsink back on that, but that's a TNT2 with 64 meg. We've got a GeForce 3 TI 200, which we will try and also clock to GeForce 3 and GeForce 3 TI 500 speeds. We've got this is a WinFast A170. I'm pretty sure that there's like a like an MX440, GeForce 2 MX440, I think. This is a GeForce FX 5200. And what was this one? I don't know what this one was. It's an NVIDIA card. Can I remember what it is? No. 39400. I'm sure I would have. Hang on. I think I did write it on here. There we go. It's a GeForce 4 MX4000. That's right. I wrote it on the end of the heatsink. We also got this. I think this is a 9200 LE, ATI Radeon 9200 LE. This here is a 256 meg 9600 Pro. This here is another 9600 Pro. I can't remember how much RAM was on this one. doesn't say. No, not sure how much RAM's on that one. And this one here is out of a Mac, so I'm not even sure if this will work in a PC, but we'll give it a try and find out. But that'll be for the next video when we do a 3D benchmarking in Windows 98. If you'd like me to do Windows XP as well, let me know, but at the moment I'm only planning on doing the benchmarking in Windows 98. But yeah, we'll see you when that video comes out in a week or two. Until then, stay safe, stay well.